Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the stars through the main window. The ship moved slowly through space near Earth. Everything seemed normal until the communication system started making loud noises. Lieutenant. Sam Davis ran to his station and pressed buttons on his console. His face turned white as he read the incoming message. "Admiral, we have a transmission coming in from outside our solar system," Sam said. His voice shook a little. "The signal is stronger than anything we have ever seen before." Jake walked to the communication station. He had been in the space Navy for 20 years but had never seen anything like this. The signal was so powerful it was reaching every communication device on Earth at the same time. Every television, every radio, every computer was receiving the same message. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen filled with the image of a creature that looked nothing like a human. It had 4 arms, purple skin, and 3 eyes that glowed with yellow light. The creature wore what looked like official robes covered in strange symbols. When it spoke, the words came out in a language no human had ever heard before, but somehow everyone could understand what it was saying. "I am Zexathara, Supreme Arbiter of the Galactic Council," the creature said. Its voice was deep and full of authority. "For 1,000 years we have watched your species from a distance. We have seen your wars, your violence, and your rapid growth in technology. The Council has made a decision about humanity." Jake felt his heart beating faster. On Earth, millions of people stopped what they were doing to listen to the alien message. In the Pentagon, General Ryan Cooper gathered his staff around the Emergency Communications Center. In her laboratory at the Space Research Institute, Dr. Lisa Barnes put down her work and stared at the screen. "Humans are too dangerous to remain in their current state," Zexathara continued. "Your species shows an unacceptable level of aggression. You develop weapons too quickly. You fight each other constantly. The Galactic Council has decided that humanity must be controlled before you become a threat to other species in the galaxy." The alien raised one of its 4 hands. Behind it, Jake could see other creatures of different shapes and sizes. They all watched the transmission with serious expressions on their faces. "The Council gives humanity exactly 72 standard hours to surrender," Zexathara said. "You will give up all military weapons and spaceships. You will accept Council oversight of your governments. You will agree to move to planets that we choose for you. These planets will be suitable for human life, but they will be far from other civilized worlds." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Around the bridge, his crew members looked at each other with shock and fear. The alien was talking about humanity like they were wild animals that needed to be put in cages. "If humanity refuses to accept these terms, the Council will take corrective action," the creature continued. "Our fleet is already moving toward your solar system. We have weapons that can destroy entire planets. We have ships that are bigger than your largest cities. Resistance is not possible. Cooperation is your only choice for survival." The transmission showed images of massive alien ships moving through space. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. There were hundreds of them, all heading toward Earth. The ships had strange designs with curved hulls and glowing engines that left trails of light behind them. "Humanity has shown great potential in some areas," Zexathara said. "Your art and music are interesting. Your literature shows creativity. Some of your scientific discoveries are impressive. The Council does not wish to destroy these qualities. However, your violent nature cannot be allowed to spread beyond your current location." Dr. Lisa Barnes watched the transmission from her laboratory. She had spent her whole career studying the possibility of alien life. Now that aliens had finally made contact, they were threatening to destroy everything she had worked for. She started recording everything and making notes about the aliens' appearance and behavior. "The timer begins now," Zexathara announced. 72 hours for humanity to make the right choice. Any attempt to resist will result in the complete destruction of your species. Any attempt to flee will be stopped by our patrol ships. Any attempt to hide will fail because our sensors can detect human life from across the galaxy." The alien leaned forward, and its three eyes seemed to look directly at everyone watching the transmission. "Choose wisely, humans. This is the only warning you will receive. Submit to Council authority or face the consequences of your defiance. The galaxy is vast, but there is no place you can go that we cannot find you. The Council has spoken." The transmission ended. The screens went black. Then every communication device on Earth started working normally again, but the silence felt different now. Everyone knew that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the neighbors were not friendly. Jake Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for orders. Down on Earth, world leaders were calling emergency meetings. In space stations around the planet, human ships were getting ready for whatever would come next. The countdown had begun. President Maria Santos sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. Around the long table sat leaders from every major country on Earth. The room had been built to survive nuclear war, but no one had ever planned for an alien invasion. Large screens on the walls showed news reports from around the world. Everywhere people were gathering in the streets, not running away in panic but standing together and talking about what to do. "The alien gave us 72 hours, Maria said to the other leaders. "We need to make a decision that will affect every person on Earth. Do we surrender or do we fight?" The Prime Minister of England spoke first. "Our military experts say fighting is impossible. Their ships are too big and too advanced. We would be destroyed in minutes." "Maybe," said the President of Russia, "but my people do not want to live as prisoners on some alien planet. They would rather die as free humans on Earth." General Ryan Cooper entered the room carrying a thick folder of papers. He had been working without sleep since the alien message arrived. His uniform was wrinkled, and his eyes were red from staring at computer screens, but his voice was clear and strong. "I have reports from every military base in the world," Ryan said. "Our soldiers are ready to fight. They know the odds are bad, but they refuse to surrender. More importantly, civilians are volunteering to help. Factories are changing their production to make weapons and supplies. Scientists are sharing all their research. Even children are asking what they can do to help." On the orbital defense station Freedom Point, Captain Amy Rodriguez watched through the observation window as ships from different countries approached her station. A few hours ago, these same countries had been competitors or even enemies. Now, they were working together like they had been allies for years. "Russian cargo ship requesting permission to dock," her communication officer reported. "Permission granted," Amy said. "Send them to Docking Bay 3 next to the Chinese supply ship." Amy had never seen anything like it. Ships with different flags and different languages were sharing fuel, weapons, and information. Pilots who had been trained to fight each other were now planning missions together. The alien threat had done something that no human leader had ever accomplished. It had united every nation on Earth in less than 24 hours. In his laboratory, Dr. Kevin Martinez worked with a team of scientists from 12 different countries. They were studying pieces of alien technology that had been collected from crashed ships over the past few years. Most governments had kept these discoveries secret, but now everything was being shared. "Look at this," Kevin said to his team. He pointed to a strange metal component that glowed with blue light. "This is not just advanced technology. It is designed specifically to work against carbon-based life forms. The aliens have been planning this attack for a long time." Dr. Chen Wu from China examined the alien device under a powerful microscope. "The molecular structure is designed to disrupt human DNA," she said. "These weapons are not just meant to kill us. They are meant to make sure we cannot reproduce or adapt." The discovery made everyone in the laboratory angry. The aliens were not just trying to relocate humanity. They were planning to make sure humans could never become a threat to anyone again. On Earth's surface, ordinary people were doing extraordinary things. Tony Jackson, who had worked in the same car factory for 15 years, was now helping to convert the assembly line to build parts for spaceships. His neighbors, who had never talked to each other before, were working side by side, learning new skills and sharing whatever they had. "My grandmother survived World War II," Tony told his co-workers. "She always said that humans are strongest when we have no choice but to be strong. Well, we have no choice now. In schools around the world, teachers were showing students how to use communication equipment and how to recognize alien technology. Elderly people who remembered wars from decades ago were teaching young people about survival and resistance. Artists and musicians were creating songs and pictures that carried the same message to every human language: we will not surrender." The second alien transmission arrived exactly 24 hours after the first one. This time, Zexathera looked annoyed instead of calm. The creature's 3 eyes glowed brighter, and its voice had an angry edge. "Humans. Your response to our generous offer is disappointing," the alien said. "We have monitored your communications and your military movements. You appear to be preparing for resistance instead of preparing for relocation. This is a mistake that will cost many lives." Admiral Jake Morrison was ready this time. He had spent the day coordinating with military leaders from every country. Human ships were moving into defensive positions around Earth and its colonies. Weapons were being prepared. Most importantly, every human military unit was now part of a single command structure. "We are giving you one more chance to make the right choice," Zexathara continued. "Surrender now, and some of your people will be allowed to live. Continue this foolish resistance, and we will be forced to use more serious measures. You have 48 hours remaining." The transmission ended, but this time Jake was ready with a response. He had been chosen to speak for all of humanity. The message would be sent on every human communication channel so that both Earth and the aliens would hear it clearly. Jake looked directly into the camera. Behind him stood military officers from every country on Earth. Their uniforms were different, but their expressions were the same. They were not afraid. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison speaking for the United Earth Defense Force," he said. "We have received your ultimatum, and we have made our decision. Humanity rejects your demands completely. We will not surrender our weapons. We will not accept your oversight. We will not leave our home." Jake paused and looked around at the other officers. Each one nodded to show their agreement. "You say that resistance is impossible," Jake continued. "You say that we should choose cooperation over destruction. Here is our choice. We choose to fight as free humans rather than live as your prisoners. We choose to defend our home rather than accept exile. We choose death before surrender." Jake stepped closer to the camera. His voice became louder and more determined. "Come and take it." The alien fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly when Zexathara had promised. Commander Steve Taylor watched from the bridge of the UES Vengeance as his sensors detected ship after ship emerging from faster-than-light travel. Each alien vessel was massive, some over 10 kilometers long, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The human fleet looked like insects next to elephants. "Count is now over 2,000 alien ships," his tactical officer reported. "They are arranging themselves in a formation around the outer planets. No immediate movement toward Earth." Steve had been chosen to lead the first human strike force because he was known for taking risks that other commanders thought were crazy. Today, those risks might be humanity's only hope. His fleet consisted of 300 human ships from 15 different countries. They were smaller and less advanced than the alien vessels, but they had one advantage that the aliens did not expect. "All ships, this is Commander Taylor," Steve said into his communication system. "Remember what we learned from the captured alien technology. Their ships are powerful but slow. Their weapons can destroy planets but have trouble hitting fast-moving targets. Their shields are strong but take time to recharge. We are going to hit them hard and fast before they can react properly." On the alien flagship, Zexathara watched the approaching human force with something that looked like amusement. The Supreme. Arbiter had commanded fleets that conquered entire star systems. These tiny human ships looked like they were coming to surrender rather than fight. "Shall we destroy them immediately?" asked one of the other council members. "No," Zexathara replied. "Let them approach. When they see the true power of our weapons, they will realize that resistance is hopeless. Sometimes a demonstration is more effective than destruction." The alien commander made a mistake that would cost the council dearly. Zexathara had studied human military history and saw that humans usually retreated when faced with superior force. The alien had not learned about the times when humans fought to the death rather than accept defeat. Steve's fleet approached the alien formation at maximum speed. The human ships spread out to attack from multiple directions at once. As they got closer, the alien vessels began charging their weapons. Energy readings on human sensors went off the scale as the alien ships prepared to fire. "All ships, remember the plan," Steve broadcast. "When they fire, we do not retreat. We do not try to dodge. We accelerate directly toward their ships." Pilot Nancy White flew her fighter craft at the front of the human formation. She was 23 years old and had been flying for only 2 years, but she had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. Her fighter carried a nuclear warhead that was supposed to be delivered to the alien command ship. The mission planners thought she would be able to get close enough to launch the weapon before being shot down. Nancy had different plans. The aliens fired first. Beams of energy that could melt mountains reached out toward the human fleet. Several ships were destroyed instantly, turned into clouds of glowing metal and gas. But the humans did not slow down or change course. Instead, they flew directly into the alien fire. "This is impossible," one of the alien tactical officers reported to Zexathara. "The humans are not retreating. They are accelerating toward our ships, even though they are being destroyed." More human ships died, but the ones that survived kept coming. The alien weapons were designed to destroy targets that tried to escape, not targets that flew directly toward them. The targeting systems became confused as human ships closed the distance faster than the aliens thought possible. Nancy's fighter was hit by alien fire and began spinning out of control. Her engine was damaged and her life support system was failing. According to every rule of warfare, she should have ejected and hoped to be rescued. Instead, she used her remaining fuel to aim her damaged ship directly at the alien command vessel. "For Earth!" Nancy said into her radio as her fighter crashed into the alien ship's bridge. The nuclear warhead exploded inside the alien vessel. The massive ship broke apart in a chain of explosions that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. Other human pilots saw what Nancy had done and began following her example. Ships that were too damaged to fight effectively became guided missiles aimed at alien targets. "Report," Zexathara demanded as alarms sounded throughout the alien fleet. "We have lost 47 ships in the first 10 minutes of combat," the tactical officer replied. "The humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before. They are ramming our vessels with their own ships. They seem to prefer dying in combat to retreating safely." The aliens had weapons that could destroy planets, but they had never fought an enemy that was willing to die to win. Their ships were built for intimidation and long-range destruction, not for close combat with suicidal opponents. The human ships were smaller and weaker, but they could move faster and change direction more quickly. Steve Taylor watched as more human ships sacrificed themselves to destroy alien vessels. His own ship had been damaged by enemy fire, but he kept fighting. Around him, the crew worked at their stations even though they knew they would probably die in the next few minutes. "Sir, we have lost 60% of our fleet," his tactical officer reported, "but the aliens have lost almost 30% of theirs. They are starting to retreat from our sector." On Earth's surface, the battle was being broadcast live to everyone on the planet. People gathered in streets and homes to watch their defenders fight impossible odds. When Nancy White's sacrifice was shown on the news, spontaneous celebrations broke out in cities around the world. The aliens were not invincible after all. Tony Jackson and his factory workers had converted their facility to produce ammunition for the space fleet. When they saw the battle reports, they worked even harder. Children brought food and water to the workers so they would not have to stop production. Elderly people organized supply lines to make sure nothing was wasted. "Look at that," Tony said to his co-workers as they watched another human ship ram an alien vessel. "Our people are not just fighting up there. They are winning." The first day of fighting ended with the alien fleet pulled back to a safer distance. They had lost over 700 ships. The humans had lost most of their attack fleet, but they had proved something that no species in galactic history had ever proved before. The Council could be hurt. Zexathera sent another transmission to Earth, but this time, the alien's voice was not calm and confident. There was anger and confusion in the creature's tone. "Humans, your resistance has been noted," the alien said. "You have caused unnecessary damage to Council property. If you surrender now, we will consider reducing your punishment. Continue fighting, and we will be forced to use planet-destroying weapons." Admiral Jake Morrison appeared on screen to give humanity's response. Behind him stood the surviving commanders from the first battle, including Steve Taylor. They looked tired and some were wounded, but they were not defeated. "Your fleet came here to make us surrender," Jake said. "Instead, we made you retreat. Your ships are powerful, but your soldiers are not willing to die for victory. Ours are. If you want to destroy our planet, go ahead and try. But remember that you will have to come close enough for us to reach you." Jake looked directly into the camera with eyes that showed no fear. "We told you yesterday, come and take it." On the industrial planet Kepler 442b, a worker named Vorthak finished his shift at the mineral processing plant and walked to his small apartment. Like most members of his species, the Relayan, Vorthak had lived his entire life under Council rule. His people had been relocated to this world 300 years ago after the Council decided they were becoming too independent. Now they worked in factories and mines, producing materials for the Council fleet. Vorthak turned on his communication device to watch the daily news broadcast, but instead of the usual Council propaganda, he saw something that made his hearts beat faster. The screen showed human ships ramming into Council vessels and exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The image was being broadcast illegally through hidden networks that the Council could not control. "Is this real?" Vorthak whispered to himself. In 3 centuries, no species had ever successfully attacked a Council ship. Most species surrendered before the Council fleet even arrived in their system. But these humans were not just fighting. Back. They were winning. Vorthak copied the recording and sent it to other Rillan workers. Within hours, the footage was spreading across the planet through secret communication channels. The same thing was happening on dozens of other worlds throughout the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for generations were watching humans do the impossible. Captain Amy Rodriguez received an unexpected message while commanding the orbital defense station Freedom Point. The signal came from outside the solar system, but it was not from the Council fleet. The encryption was crude but effective, and the message was short. "Human defenders, this is Captain Jorak of the Voss Republic. We have been monitoring your conflict with the Council. We cannot help you directly, but we can provide information about Council ship movements. They have called for reinforcements from 3 nearby sectors. 5,000 additional ships are heading to your system." Amy stared at the message in shock. Somewhere in the galaxy, aliens were helping humanity fight the Council. She quickly forwarded the intelligence to Admiral Morrison and then sent a reply. "Captain Jorak, this is Captain Rodriguez. We thank you for this information. Why are you helping us?" The response came 12 hours later. "Because you are doing what we never had the courage to do. You are fighting back." Dr. Lisa Barnes worked in her laboratory analyzing captured alien technology with scientists from around the world, but now she had a new project. She was studying the psychology and behavior of the Council species based on their communications and actions during the battle. I think I understand something important about our enemies, Lisa told her research team during their daily meeting. The council species are not united because they like each other or because they share the same goals. They stay together because they are afraid. Dr. Chen Wu looked up from her analysis of alien weapon fragments. Afraid of what? Afraid of becoming the next target, Lisa replied. Every species in the council lives in terror that they might be the next ones to be relocated or destroyed. They obey the council not because they believe in it, but because they think obedience is the only way to survive. Lisa pulled up a chart showing council communications during the battle. Look at these messages between council ships. They are not coordinating like a military force that trusts each other. They are watching each other, making sure no one tries to retreat or surrender. The council holds the galaxy together through fear, not loyalty. General Ryan Cooper was coordinating with resistance cells that were forming on planets throughout the galaxy. The human victory in the first battle had inspired other species to start organizing against council rule. Most were too afraid to fight openly, but they were willing to share information and provide supplies to anyone who would fight the council. We have contacts on 47 different worlds, Ryan reported to the Emergency War Council. Most of them cannot provide military support, but they are giving us intelligence about council fleet movements, supply lines, and command structures. The rebellion is spreading faster than the council can contain it. The reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a picture that amazed human leaders. The council had ruled for thousands of years by convincing everyone that resistance was impossible. Now that humans had proved it was possible, species everywhere were questioning council authority. On the planet Arcturus Prime, the Qatar Confederation secretly redirected supply ships that were supposed to deliver food and fuel to the council fleet. Instead of reaching the alien armada near Earth, the supplies were lost in space due to navigation errors. On New Centauri, dock workers from 6 different species began sabotaging council warships during routine maintenance. The damage was subtle but effective. Ships that should have been battle-ready developed engine problems or weapon malfunctions at critical moments. Even some council species were beginning to have doubts. On the council homeworld, younger members of the ruling families started asking questions that had not been asked for centuries. Why did the council need to control every aspect of galactic civilization? What gave them the right to relocate entire species? What would happen if they tried negotiation instead of force? Zexathara was receiving reports that disturbed the Supreme Arbiter deeply. The human resistance was not just a military problem anymore, it was becoming a symbol of hope for species across the galaxy. The Council's authority was being questioned on worlds that had been peaceful for hundreds of years. The situation is becoming unacceptable, Zexathara told the Council Assembly. We must end this human rebellion quickly before it spreads further. I recommend using planet-killer weapons to destroy Earth immediately. That will only make the humans into martyrs, replied Councillor Thexron of the Zephyrian Empire. Other species will see their sacrifice and become even more determined to resist us. Then what do you suggest? Zexathara demanded. Every day, we delay more worlds join their cause. We are receiving reports of sabotage, supply disruptions, and communication breakdowns throughout our territory. The council members argued among themselves, but they could not agree on a solution. Some wanted to destroy Earth to make an example. Others wanted to try negotiation to avoid making the situation worse. A few even suggested that maybe the council's methods needed to change. While the council debated, Commander Steve Taylor was preparing for the next battle. His ship had been repaired using a combination of human technology and salvaged alien equipment. The result was faster and more maneuverable than any pure human design, but also more heavily armed than the aliens expected. Sir, we are receiving volunteer applications from other species, his communication officer reported. 3 ships crewed by Rillan rebels want to join our fleet. 2 Voss Republic vessels are requesting permission to fight alongside us. Steve looked at the applications with amazement. The human rebellion was becoming a galactic revolution. Species that had never met humans were willing to die fighting beside them against the Council. "Accept all volunteers," Steve ordered. "Send them our tactical frequencies and combat protocols. If they want to fight for freedom, we will fight together." The second major battle began when the Council reinforcement fleet arrived in the solar system. 5,000 fresh alien ships joined the survivors of the first battle. But the human fleet had also grown. Ships from 12 different species now flew in formation with human vessels. Dr. Barnes watched the battle from Earth and made notes about alien behavior under stress. What she saw confirmed her theories about Council psychology. When the fighting became difficult, Council ships began retreating to protect themselves rather than supporting each other. The alliance built on fear was falling apart under pressure. "The Council is not a government," Lisa announced during a global broadcast. "It is a protection racket that has been running the same scam for thousands of years. They convince species that cooperation is impossible and resistance is hopeless. Then they offer protection from threats that they created themselves." Lisa looked directly into the camera with the confidence of someone who had solved a complex puzzle. "But humans have broken their system. We proved that resistance is possible and cooperation is natural. Now the galaxy is waking up from a nightmare that has lasted for millennia." As the second battle raged in space, messages of support poured in from across the galaxy. The Council was learning that fear only works as long as people believe there is no alternative. Humanity had given the galaxy an alternative. 3 weeks after the first alien ultimatum, something happened that no one in galactic history had ever seen before. The Galactic Council, rulers of the galaxy for over 1,000 years, sent a request for a ceasefire to a species they had tried to destroy. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, a massive vessel that had been built using both human engineering and captured alien technology. The ship was called the UES Constitution, and it was now the command center for a fleet that included vessels from 23 different species. Jake read the Council message with amazement and growing anger. "They want to negotiate," Jake told his senior staff. "After 3 weeks of trying to exterminate us, they want to talk about a peaceful solution." Commander Steve Taylor, who had been promoted after leading successful raids on Council supply lines, shook his head in disbelief. "Do they think we are stupid? They sent 5,000 ships to destroy our planet, and now they want a timeout?" "Captain." Amy Rodriguez pulled up tactical displays showing the current positions of both fleets. The alien armada was still massive, but it was no longer the unstoppable force that had arrived 3 weeks ago. Human tactics had destroyed over 2,000 Council ships, and defections from Council species had cost them hundreds more. "Tjut." Message came from Zexa Thara personally, Amy reported. "The Supreme Arbiter wants to meet with you on a neutral ship to discuss terms for ending the conflict." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Terms? I will tell you what terms. We offer complete withdrawal from human space, recognition of the independence of all species that want to leave the Council, and war crimes trials for every Council leader who ordered the destruction of civilian targets." The Council's ceasefire request was not just being sent to humanity. Similar messages were going out to rebel forces on dozens of planets throughout the galaxy. The rebellion that had started with human defiance had spread so far that the Council could no longer control it. Dr. Kevin Martinez had been working without rest for 3 weeks, analyzing captured Council technology and communications. His discoveries had shocked even him. The Council's power was built on a lie that was bigger than anyone had imagined. "The Council does not just control the galaxy through military force," Kevin told the emergency session of world leaders. "They control it through economic manipulation and technological suppression. Every species in the Council is dependent on technology that only the Council can provide. Food production, medical supplies, transportation, communication, everything depends on Council systems. President Maria Santos studied the technical reports with growing understanding. So when species rebel, the Council can simply cut off their access to the technology they need to survive. Exactly, Kevin replied. But here is the important part. The technology is not really advanced at all. The Council has been deliberately keeping it primitive and centralized so they can control it. With what we have learned from captured alien equipment, we can build better systems that do not depend on Council infrastructure. Dr. Lisa Barnes had been monitoring communications from across the galaxy, and what she was hearing gave her hope that the rebellion might actually succeed. 47 species have declared independence from the Council in the past week, she reported. Production worlds have stopped shipping raw materials. Military units are refusing orders to attack civilian populations. The Council's authority is collapsing. The evidence of this collapse was everywhere. On the mining world of Proxima 7, Rillan workers had taken control of the extraction facilities and were sending resources to rebel fleets instead of Council forces. On the agricultural planet New Harvest, 3 different species were working together to produce food for refugee populations fleeing Council retribution. Most importantly, Council military units were beginning to desert. Entire fleets that had served the Council for centuries were simply leaving their posts and returning to their home worlds. The fear that had held the galactic government together was being replaced by something the Council had never faced before: hope. But Zexathara still had one final weapon that could destroy everything the rebels had accomplished. The Supreme Arbiter appeared on screens throughout human space and rebel territory with a message that made everyone stop what they were doing. The alien looked different than before. Its purple skin had turned a darker shade, and its 3 eyes glowed with desperate intensity. "Rebellious species of the galaxy," Zexathara began. "You have forced the Council to consider options that we had hoped never to use. For 1,000 years, we have maintained peace and order through strength and wisdom. You have rejected our guidance and chosen chaos instead." Jake Morrison watched the transmission with growing dread. He could hear something in the alien's voice that had not been there before. This was not anger or frustration. This was fear. "The Council has placed quantum destruction devices on 300 worlds throughout the galaxy," Zexathara continued. "These devices can sterilize entire planets in seconds. They have been hidden on your worlds for centuries as a final guarantee of galactic stability." The alien paused to let the implications sink in. Every rebel leader, every independence movement, every species that had declared freedom from Council rule was now facing the possibility of complete annihilation. If the rebellion does not end immediately, if all rebel fleets do not surrender within 24 hours, if independence movements do not dissolve themselves and return to Council authority, we will activate every device simultaneously, the Supreme Arbiter declared. 300 worlds will be destroyed rather than allowed to fall into chaos. The transmission showed a list of targeted planets. Earth was on the list, along with the homeworlds of every species that had joined the rebellion. Billions of lives hung in the balance of the Council's desperation. "This is not a threat," Zexathara said. "This is a promise. The Council would rather rule over empty space than allow disorder to spread throughout the galaxy. You have 24 hours to make your choice. Surrender and live under our guidance, or resist and die with your foolish dreams of independence." The message ended, leaving the Rebel Alliance to face their darkest moment. They had proved that the Council could be defeated militarily. But how do you fight an enemy willing to commit genocide rather than accept defeat? Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting of all rebel leaders. Representatives from dozens of species gathered virtually to discuss their options. The debate was intense and emotional, with some arguing for surrender to save innocent lives and others insisting that giving in to threats would only lead to worse oppression in the future. "We cannot let them murder billions of innocent people," argued Captain Jorak of the Voss Republic. "Maybe we should consider accepting some form of limited Council authority to prevent the destruction." "No," replied General Ryan Cooper firmly. If we surrender now, every future generation will live under the threat of those weapons. The Council will use them whenever anyone asks for basic rights or freedom. Dr. Barnes had been analyzing the key, psychology of the Council's threat, and her conclusion was disturbing. Zexathara is not bluffing, she told the Assembly. The Council leadership genuinely believes that destroying the galaxy is preferable to losing control of it. They have convinced themselves that they are the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, humanity's response was exactly what the galaxy had come to expect from them. President Maria Santos spoke for Earth and the human colonies, but her words reflected the decision that was being made on rebel worlds throughout the galaxy. The Council threatens to murder billions of innocent people unless we accept slavery, Maria said. They offer us the choice between death and surrender, but there is a third option that they have not considered. Maria looked directly into the camera with the same determination that humans had shown from the beginning of the crisis. We choose to fight. We choose to die as free beings rather than live as slaves. And if the Council wants to destroy the galaxy rather than allow freedom, then we will make sure they do not survive to rule over the ashes. The message went out on every rebel communication channel in the galaxy. Humanity's final answer to the Council's ultimate threat was the same. As their first response to the original ultimatum, come and take it, the quantum bombs did not explode. For the first time in galactic history, the supreme arbiter of the Galactic Council discovered that there was something more frightening than losing power. There was something more terrifying than watching an empire collapse. That something was the realization that activating the planet-killer weapons would mean their own destruction along with everyone else. Zexathara sat in the council chamber surrounded by the leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy. For 1,000 years, these beings had ruled through fear and intimidation. They had convinced themselves and everyone else that they were necessary for galactic stability. Now they faced a choice that revealed the truth about their own character. "The humans have called our bluff," announced Counselor Thexran of the Zephyrian Empire. "They would rather die than surrender. More importantly, so would most of the other rebel species. If we activate the quantum devices, we will destroy 300 worlds, including many that still support us." Zexathara's 3 eyes glowed with anger and frustration. "Then what do you suggest? If we do not use the weapons, every species in the galaxy will know that our ultimate threat is empty. Our authority will be finished." "Our authority is already finished," replied Counselor Veltar of the Centaurian Federation. 47 species have declared independence. Our military units are deserting. Our supply lines have been sabotaged. The only question now is whether we die with dignity or take everyone else with us. The debate in the council chamber continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The council leadership had spent so many centuries living in comfort and safety that they had forgotten how to choose death over defeat. When faced with the choice between activating the bombs and accepting surrender, they chose to live. Admiral Jake Morrison received the council's surrender message while standing on the bridge of the UES Constitution. Around him, officers from 12 different species worked together to coordinate the largest fleet in galactic history. The message was short and formal, but it represented the end of an empire that had lasted for a millennium. "The Galactic Council hereby announces the cessation of all hostilities and requests immediate negotiations for the peaceful transfer of governmental authority," Jake read aloud. "All Council military forces have been ordered to stand down. All territorial claims are suspended pending the establishment of new galactic governance structures." Commander Steve Taylor, now serving as Jake's second-in-command, shook his head in amazement. "They actually gave up. After everything they threatened, they just gave up." "Fear only works when people believe they have no choice," Jake replied. "Once we showed the galaxy that resistance was possible, the Council's power disappeared like smoke." The surrender ceremony took place aboard the UES Constitution in Earth orbit. Representatives from over 200 species attended, many appearing, in person for the first time in generations, The ceremony was broadcast live throughout the galaxy, watched by billions of beings who had never imagined they would see the end of Council rule. Zexathara appeared smaller somehow as the former Supreme Arbiter signed the surrender documents. The alien's purple skin had faded to a dull gray, and its three eyes no longer glowed with authority. Next to the alien stood Admiral Morrison, representing not just humanity, but the entire Free Worlds alliance that had emerged from the rebellion. The Galactic Council formally dissolves all governmental structures and transfers authority to the democratically elected representatives of the Free Worlds Alliance, Zexathara announced in a voice that carried no trace of its former arrogance. Dr. Lisa Barnes was chosen as the first elected president of the Free Worlds Alliance. Her election was remarkable not just because she was human, but because she had been selected by representatives from dozens of species based on her ability to understand alien psychology and behavior rather than her military or political power. Today, we begin a new chapter in galactic history, Lisa said during her inauguration speech. For the first time, the galaxy will be governed by cooperation rather than fear, by consent rather than force, by justice rather than convenience. Captain Amy Rodriguez became the first commander of the Integrated Defense Force, a military organization that included ships and personnel from every member species of the new alliance. Her first mission was hunting down and dismantling the quantum bombs that the Council had hidden throughout the galaxy. "We have located and disabled over 200 planet-killer devices," Amy reported to the Alliance Council 6 months after the surrender. "Our teams are working with local authorities on each world to ensure these weapons can never be used again. We estimate that we will have them all neutralized within the next year." The transformation of galactic civilization happened faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been enemies under Council rule discovered they had no real conflicts with each other. The wars and tensions that the Council had encouraged to maintain control disappeared when the Council was no longer there to benefit from them. Dr. Kevin Martinez led the effort to share advanced technology with all Alliance members. The technical knowledge that the Council had hoarded for centuries was distributed freely, allowing every species to develop according to their own needs and desires rather than Council requirements. "We are not trying to create a human empire to replace the Council empire," Kevin explained to representatives from newly independent worlds. "We are trying to create a system where every species can develop their own technology and culture without interference from others." On Earth, now officially renamed Terra in honor of its role as the birthplace of galactic freedom, memorials were built to honor those who had died in the war. But these monuments were not celebrations of human superiority. They were reminders that freedom requires constant vigilance and the willingness to sacrifice for principles. Tony Jackson, the factory worker who had helped convert Earth's industries for war production, was chosen to speak at the dedication of the Freedom Memorial in New Geneva. His words were broadcast throughout the galaxy and became part of the Alliance founding documents. "My grandmother always told me that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance," Tony said to the assembled crowd. "But she also taught me that some things are worth any price. Today we remember not just the humans who died for freedom, but all the beings throughout the galaxy who refused to accept that tyranny was permanent." The memorial contained the names of everyone who had died fighting the Council, from human pilots who had rammed alien ships to Rillan workers who had sabotaged Council facilities to Voss captains who had shared intelligence with rebel forces. The wall of names reminded visitors that freedom had been won by the sacrifice of many species working together. Children throughout the galaxy learned about the war in schools that now taught the history of all species rather than just Council propaganda. They learned about the importance of questioning authority and standing up for what is right even when the odds seem impossible. The story became part of galactic culture in ways that surprised even its participants. Artists from dozens of species created songs, paintings, and stories about the human rebellion and the galactic revolution that followed. The phrase, "come and take it," was translated into hundreds of languages and became a symbol of resistance to oppression anywhere it was found. Zexathera and the other former council leaders were not executed or imprisoned. Instead, they were required to travel throughout the galaxy, speaking about the mistakes they had made and the lessons they had learned. The former Supreme Arbiter spent the rest of its life trying to understand how the pursuit of order and stability had led to tyranny and oppression. "We told ourselves that we were necessary," Zexathera said during one of these speaking engagements on the former Council homeworld. "We convinced ourselves that other species needed our guidance to avoid chaos and war. But the truth was that we created most of the problems we claimed to solve. We maintained power by making other species dependent on us and afraid of each other." The Free Worlds Alliance faced many challenges in its early years. Different species had different needs and different ideas about how society should be organized. There were disputes about resource allocation, territorial boundaries, and trade agreements. But these conflicts were resolved through negotiation and compromise rather than force. The galaxy was not perfect under the new system, but it was free. Species could make their own mistakes and learn from them rather than being forced to follow someone else's rules. They could develop their own cultures and technologies rather than being limited by what others thought was appropriate. Admiral Morrison, now retired from military service, often spoke to young Alliance officers about the lessons of the war against the Council. His message was always the same. Freedom is not something that can be given by others or taken away by others. It is something that exists only as long as people are willing to defend it. The Council ruled for 1,000 years because people believed that resistance was impossible, Jake would tell his audiences. Humanity did not defeat the Council because we were stronger or smarter or more advanced. We defeated them because we refused to accept that some things cannot be changed. As the 10th anniversary of the Council's surrender approached,